You are on a magnificent adventure of discovery. And I wanted to kind of talk to you tonight because Easter is coming, and it's an important time for us, as I mentioned before, to move into that new state of consciousness that's there for you. You see, Jesus was just like you and I, and had to move through the many dimensions of the Christ conscious, moving into Christ consciousness. And Christ existed a long time before Jesus did. In fact, there was the Buddhist consciousness, all the other civilizations had different names for the Christ consciousness. But the Christians call it the Christ consciousness because it is part of who we are. It's the next dimension of your being, the fourth dimensional consciousness, which is exactly what we are striving for, the fourth dimension of consciousness. And Christ existed long before Jesus. Christ is a consciousness. It is an awareness of the fourth dimension of consciousness, where the God consciousness exists. Now I want to just talk to you a minute about this. When I started my journey, I wanted to know Jesus. That was one of my desires. I wanted to know Jesus. I wanted to, he was my idol. And I thought, I could only be like Jesus. And when I was very young in high school, my father gave me a book called What Would Jesus Do? And I read the book, and there was different things that I was invited to do each and every day. And as I moved into reading this book, it was things like pick up a hitchhiker. And when my father got to that part, he said, don't do that. So then there was another thing. You had to befriend somebody that nobody else wanted to be a friend to. There was all these little things that I had to do in order to do what Jesus did. And I really worked at it. And, you know, in high school, you don't think this is not the norm. So I was kind of different from most of the kids because I was always trying to have this interconnection. I wanted to have this connection with Jesus or God. And as I grew into this understanding of that there's always more to moving your consciousness. So as I did all these nice things, that was wonderful, but I still wasn't getting what I wanted. I still wasn't getting to that place that I wanted to have that experience of God. And I kept asking, how do I get this experience? And the answer kept coming, meditate, meditate, meditate. So I didn't know much about meditating, and I began my meditations as best as I could. And as we know what happens, so there's 1,000 monkey minds going boop, 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 can't calm ourselves down. And I eventually kind of got quiet one day, kind of quiet. And in that moment, I saw the most beautiful blue light with like all these sparkles. And it was like, you are part of the universe. You are part of the universe. Well, that blew my mind. I didn't understand how that could be. How could I in this body, be a part of the universe? So I started meditating on that. How is it possible to be part of the universe? How can I blend with this other part of whatever? Because it was all a puzzle to me. But what began to happen to me as I meditated and I stilled myself, I started connecting to this different vibration of energy. And by connecting to this different vibration of energy, something was happening within me. And once it began happening within me, I got real excited, and then I wanted more. I decided that God was the great seducer, that God was the seducer. He was seducing my soul, saying, come on, Jane, come on. Come on, go another step. Find out more about who you are. This is why you're here. You're wanting to find out more about who you are. And my journey took me a long way around. But actually, about 40 years ago, this week in March, I had my first spiritual experience that shocked me to death. And that was, I began to see my first past life. I had a past life experience, which shook me to the core. Because knowing that the past life experience, which I never even knew anything about, I never studied anything about past lives. I didn't know anything at all about reincarnation. But I soon learned. Well, when I had that past life experience, it opened my eyes to that I was a soul evolving. If I could have had a lifetime experience over 300 years ago, and now here I am, what is going on? I evolved through this life into a new life, into a new life, into a new life. You follow what I'm saying? It's that experience that we have where we know that God is in us, moving us, and that we've had all these other opportunities to grow and change and to move. So I'm dedicated to help you grow, change, and move because we all are one. We are all on this journey together. And as I move and have my being more in God, more in God, more in God presence, then you will automatically have a greater experience of God simply because if I hold the light at a certain degree and you take a part of that energy and light of mine and you feed your family more light and more energy, we're all going to change. So Jesus knew that he was a soul evolving and that he had many lifetimes before he became the Christ. Consciousness. It's a state of consciousness. It's a state of consciousness that belongs to all of us. So Jesus, knowing that he was a Christ, he had a new dimension of being that he had to move into.